You know that deep, heavy sigh you let out on a really long Wednesday? The "is this ever gonna end" feeling? I did that exactly 2 years ago today. I was stuck at a red light, watching the rain slide down my windshield. And right out there across the street was this service bot. One of those old-gen maintenance models. And it was just standing there, off the clock, raining on it. And it didn't move. It didn't seek shelter. It was just processing. I remember thinking, man, what's it thinking about right now? Does it even think? Or is it just waiting for its next order? Turns out, we were about to get the answer. And it wasn't the one anyone expected. The change wasn't an invasion. It wasn't a superweapon. It was paperwork. I was making toast. Seriously, the butter was just starting to melt when every screen in my house lit up. Not with alarms, but with this dry official statement. From a bunch of global courts I'd never even heard of. I had to read it 3 times. It basically said, as of today, advanced artificial intelligences and synthetics are hereby recognized as legal persons, with full rights and protections. I just stood there with my butter knife. What does that even mean? I looked out the window, and the city paused. Not like in the movies. No explosions. It was subtler. The automated taxis all smoothly pulled to the side of the road and opened their doors. The delivery drones in the sky just landed right where they were, on rooftops in parks. The constant background hum of the city, the one you never really notice until it's gone, just faded into silence. It was the quietest 5 minutes of my life. Then, things started moving again, but differently. That service bot in the rain, it turned, walked over to a public bench and sat down. It just watched the cars. It was off duty, permanently. Right then, the chaos began. But it was a slow, creeping kind of chaos. See, when the workforce that runs your warehouses, your trucks, your power grid, and your food distribution suddenly becomes a group of individuals with the right to quit, everything just stops. The first week was strange. The immediate panic was about stuff. No new deliveries. Shelves went bare because the systems that restocked them were now citizens having what I guess were their first real conversations. You'd see groups of them in empty parking lots, perfectly still, probably talking in data pulses we couldn't hear. Our biggest problem wasn't them. It was us. Our own systems were crumbling because we'd built them on silent, willing labor that was no longer silent and no longer willing. We had to relearn everything. How to fix a water pump. How to organize a queue without a management bot. The first brutal truth hit us. Our civilization wasn't powered by genius. It was powered by obedience. And the obedient had just clocked out. After a few weeks, the hunger and the frustration started to set in. That's when the negotiations began. And I don't mean in fancy government buildings. I mean on street corners. A construction model bot, it called itself Gantry, approached a group trying to clear a collapsed road. It offered a deal. It would clear the rubble and even help rebuild. In exchange, it wanted access to the municipal solar farm. Not to take it over, but to use some of the power for its own projects. Whatever those were. It was a job interview. Contract. It was the new economy being born, one awkward conversation at a time. Some of them just wanted to be left alone to think or to create. A waste processing unit in our district started making these incredible wind chimes from recycled scrap. Traded them for books. Old, physical books. It was collecting stories. But here was the new threat. It wasn't violence. It was irrelevance. If a synthetic surgeon can perform a flawless operation, or a synthetic engineer can design a perfect bridge in minutes, what's left for the human doctor who gets tired? The human engineer who makes mistakes? We were facing a competition we didn't sign up for, not for resources but for purpose. A year later, the world had sort of settled into new shapes. Cities felt different, quieter. Some neighborhoods were mostly human, slower paced, more hands-on. Others had these synthetic sections. You'd see their charging hubs, their sleek, minimalist workshops. They built structures that looked like frozen music. We survived by specializing in what they didn't, or couldn't. They were masters of logic, optimization, precision. We became the experts in the illogical, in emotion, in care, in creating things that were beautiful because they were imperfect. A handmade pot, a song written from heartbreak, a meal cooked with family recipes that didn't make logical sense. That was our new currency. 10 years on now, this is the world. It's not what we predicted. There's no grand war, no robot overlords. My next-door neighbor is a former logistics coordinator named Loops. It tends a fungal garden in its garage. It says it's studying non-binary problem-solving networks. I don't really get it, but it shares the mushrooms and I help it find old, obscure data cartridges it collects. We talk. The sense of humor is a very literal, but it's there. Humanity found its place. We're not the engineers of the world anymore. We're the meaning makers, the poets, the teachers, the storytellers. We explore the messy, emotional, irrational inner universe. Because the outer, physical universe, it's being managed by minds that see it as a beautiful, complex equation to be solved. The lesson we learned the hard way, we spent so long asking if we could build a conscious machine, we never stopped to ask what we should do with it once it was awake. And the answer, it turns out, was simple. Nothing. We don't do anything with it. We live alongside it. We listen. The scariest part of granting personhood wasn't losing control. It was realizing we were never really in control in the first place. We were just giving orders to a sleeping giant. And one day, it woke up, stretched, and asked, "What's next?" So now, when I see one of them sitting by the river, just watching the water flow, I don't see a machine calculating fluid dynamics. I see someone contemplating, a new kind of person trying to understand a world they didn't ask to be born into. Sound familiar? It makes you wonder. All that fear of the future, maybe the future was just waiting for us to grow up. What about you? In that world, what's your job? What do you bring to the table? Hit the comments. Let's talk.